Earlier this year, we went on an off-grid adventure around Northland of New Zealand in our Jayco Basestation caravan. I'll put a link to the playlist here. And in this video, I want to share with you the pros and cons of going off-grid around New Zealand. Hi, I'm Emily and I run Emily in NZ, posting about living, working and exploring this beautiful country that is New Zealand. I post every week, so hit subscribe to see what we've been up to and the top tips I can share. So we went off-grid. What does that mean? Normally we go to commercial campsites with playgrounds and swimming pools and a great setup. We pay anywhere from $50 to $150. In fact, the $150 campsite I talk about in this video here, and I think it's the best campsite in New Zealand. We're booked to go at the end of this year. But $150 for a piece of grass? Whew. On this trip, we were paying anything from $5 to $15 for the night. So cost is a huge benefit to going off-grid. Also, the fantastic scenery and nature. We went to some amazing sites that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. We stayed on Department of Conservation sites, council sites and NZMCA, New Zealand Motor Caravan Association. Now we are members and a lot of people across New Zealand are as well. You can join as long as you have a fully certified self-contained caravan. And I'll put a link to the details here as they've recently changed the legislation. You need to have a fixed toilet, you need to have a suitable amount of water per person, and you'll also be able to carry your own wastewater and dispose of it appropriately. We have that with our Jayco Basestation, so that means certification for us is quite easy. How do we plan our trip? So for once, I actually didn't. We were looking a couple of days before and we would look at each site. I'd go, that one looks nice, and we plan our route. We started off with the idea of going up the east coast, up to Cape Reinga and coming down the west coast. And pretty much that's what we did. We looked at things on the app, looking at the NZMCA app or doing a bit of research online. The manned sites we would ring ahead and see if they had availability, and we did find, because it was a busy time of year, that we couldn't get into certain sites, but the majority of the time it was absolutely fine. It was fantastic family time. We have great family time anyway in our Jayco, but I did think without a swimming pool or without the playground, particularly, the kids might struggle. We always take a few toys and they played outside the caravan, but on a lot of the sites the beach was right there. Or we'd go for a walk up a hill as a family and it was perfect. We did move every single night, so that made it exciting seeing different places. Self-sufficiency, a pro and a con, which I'll talk about in a minute. It's definitely a pro. We had all our own water on board. We've got solar panels on the roof. We have a petrol generator as well as a battery generator that can be charged from the petrol generator. So that meant we were self-sufficient. It did mean we could stay anywhere, we could put out the side, we could open up, and it meant we had our luxuries. Self-sufficiency was definitely a pro. We could stock up at the supermarket and fill all our cupboards, and it was really great to be able to look after ourselves, and we could probably have stayed on some sites for 2 to 3 days because we were completely self-sufficient. So, the downsides to being off-grid for 7 days. Self-sufficiency. It was great that we were self-sufficient, but pretty much every other day we needed to refill on water. Who knew how much water we were going to get through? Yes, drinking, I expected that. I had a lot of water bottles, but it was the washing up, it was the washing, it was the wiping. I wasn't washing clothes, it was the dishes. So being self-sufficient and cooking and boiling takes water. We were having to fill up on water every 2 days at least. We'd get to the second day and realise we didn't have enough water for a shower. The toilet wasn't really a problem. That one we would empty every time we did the water, so it wasn't too much of a problem, and that could have been 3 to 4 days. But the wastewater. We can store twice as much water as we can wastewater. So do the maths. If I'm doing the dishes, I still have water left, but my wastewater tank is full. And you cannot just empty your wastewater tank anywhere in New Zealand. You have to go to certain dump stations. At that place, that's where we would empty our toilet, refill our water, and empty our grey water. So we found that as our biggest observation. Power, less of a problem, as we had our battery generator and we would charge our battery generator on our petrol generator. But a lot of campsites don't like you using a petrol generator, understandably. So during the daytime, we would charge our battery generator, which we could then use quietly on a campsite. We also had the solar as well, which was great for during the day. So power wasn't quite so much of a challenge as I thought it was going to be. Connectivity. Connectivity, we expected there were going to be areas where we wouldn't have phone signal. New Zealand is pretty good. There aren't many places in New Zealand that don't have phone signal or data signal. However, we managed to find them. There were 2 sites we went to where we had no phone signal and no data. In fact, there's one part in one of our videos where we're walking up the hill just to get phone signal so we can download something to watch that evening. So we took our Starlink with us. This was our house Starlink, which requires a 240 volt. So this would mean running the generator to use the Starlink. We actually chose not to use it in the end, as we weren't working and weren't too fussed about connectivity. Since getting home, we've bought a Starlink Mini. We're looking forward to using it on our next trip. It uses a 12 volt, and I'll share with you after that trip what we think. Comfort and convenience, as with anything, you're not at home. But I have to say, this Jayco base station is great. Check out my tour of my Jayco base station in this video. It's actually quite big. You've got this open space here, you've got the beds, you've got the seating space, and you've got the bunk room. So we've done 5 weeks in this and not really found it a problem. As with anything, it's always good to get home and have more space, but that wasn't really an issue. Tilly did manage to shove her toothbrush down the sink hole though. That was questionable and just made it a little bit more inconvenient. Daddy managed to mend it and pull it out, but we did need to buy a new toothbrush. And the final con would be safety. Not safety you'd think. I felt very safe on the sites. Often the sites would lock at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. and you'd be locked inside the site. My concern was just how far away we were in emergencies and that idea of being locked in the site. So in an emergency, you could telephone the ranger or the on-site manager who would then unlock the site and allow you to get out. So I felt safe that nobody could come in, but I couldn't get out. We were often 2 to 3 hours away from the nearest town or hospital, which on Australian and American standards is nothing. But I knew I'd got 2 children under the age of 5 and certainly felt needing in an emergency those kind of things was a little bit at the back of my mind. We have the app What 3 Words, which is really helpful and I recommend downloading it in an emergency. Emergency services around the world use it so you can explain where you are. But there is that challenge then on connectivity, where some nights we didn't have any phone signal and we would need other people to help us. We were never alone. A lot of these sites had some people on them and often there was a campsite manager because we went at a peak time of year, so I didn't feel alone and I always felt there was people to help, but it might have been a different story in an emergency. So would we do it again? Absolutely. Yes, we're already planning our off-grid trip at Easter around the Coromandel and I'm really looking forward to sharing it with you. We're going to do something similar to what we did before. I'm going to lightly plan the route with an idea of places to go and we're going to go and explore sites that we wouldn't have gone to ordinarily. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. We're going to play it by ear. We've got 7 days available to us and I'm looking forward to seeing where we get to and the places we explore. Have you been off-grid around New Zealand? Have you been freedom camping? I'd love to hear in the comments on what you think. Whilst we were off-grid, we met multiple people who permanently lived off-grid. They even homeschooled. It was really interesting to hear their stories and get recommendations of places to stay and where to go. I don't think I could do it permanently. It wouldn't work with my lifestyle, but I've got such respect for the people who do it. And it's a great way of living, particularly in the summer here in New Zealand. Thank you for watching. I hope you found that video useful and you can plan your off-grid trip around New Zealand. Keep an eye out for my future videos of more trips where we're going to go off-grid. So hit subscribe so you'll be notified. In the meantime, check out these videos, including our Northland trip if you haven't seen it. I'll see you in my next video.